Welcome back to the Big Saturday Show. More problems for the Biden presidency as he struggles to get through a speech, even reading cues in the teleprompter out loud.
It is noteworthy that the percentage of women who register to vote and cast a ballot is consistently higher than the percentage of the men who do so. End of quote. Repeat the line. Women are not without electoral and/or political, or maybe precise, not and/or political power.
The problems are bigger than just gaffes. 17 White House staffers have said goodbye to the Biden administration since he started as president. And that loss is far greater than former President Obama and Trump. Biden losing 15% in his first year in office. Trump lost 1% by his point, and Obama 4%. So, Joey, let me begin with you. The teleprompter thing, it's difficult, but it speaks to a much larger issue that Democrats are pointing out.
What are they doing? Why are they still writing this stuff in the prompter? I mean, like, I'm just glad you didn't say discussion. You know? I mean, like, wow, you know what you're working with, you know? Set this man up for some success. Like, I don't mean to just take up for Biden, but like you talk about 15%. You know, I know Kamala's lost pretty much her entire communications staff. You hit on this last segment. There's not just a problem in leadership, there's a communications problem with this entire White House. They are always behind the ball on the headlines. They're behind the law on the crisis. They don't know how to get out in front of anything. They don't know how to communicate to the American people on anything. And I don't know if it's because they've swung so far left that that's really the only influence they have there. I don't know who these individuals are individually, to speak like Kamala. But, you know, go find your David Axelrod and bring them in. You know, somebody.
Yeah, and we do know, Nicole, that the president has expressed frustration over the messengers in his administration. However, we're going to take a listen to this right now. Sometimes the problem actually is the messenger, and the messenger is sometimes the president.
I was doing Villanova's commencement, and one of my nuns from school was getting her doctorate degree. I presented it to her, and she said, "That was pretty good, Joe."
The president didn't make a commencement speech.
Man. Well, maybe in his dreams he did.
His wife did.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, this is Dr. Biden. That's right. So first of all, you know, I spend a lot of hours a week dictating. So I will say that sometimes I do say period paragraph, and it is embarrassing. And so I have to give the president just a little wiggle room for saying end quote, repeat. However, as Joey mentioned, this comes to a much bigger problem. You know, the only person that Biden actually can put a sentence together better than at this point is Kamala Harris. And so for the two of them to have such poor messaging and be unable to communicate with the American people, it's really frightening right now, especially as you're seeing so much turmoil, division. I mean, he campaigned on the fact that he was going to bring everyone together, but he has been one of the most divisive presidents ever. Ultra MAGA crowd, or whatever the heck he calls people because they don't agree or fall in line with his uber left progressive agenda. But at the end of the day, we have to get back to a point where we can look at our president, look at our vice president, and know that they represent strength, especially when they go and they continue to represent us amongst world leaders. We used to be a free world known for being a very strong power. We no longer look like that because our president can't even put together a sentence anymore. And it's very concerning from a global scale and national security, in my opinion.
And Jimmy, part of the problem for this president is his own party and the relationship that he currently has with it. We do know this week that the president met with Democratic governors earlier this week. And let me read this headline from Politico on this meeting. Quote, Biden isn't running out of ideas, Dems fear. He's running out of time. A quote from the article. Quote, don't just tell us what you've done is how a person familiar with the meetings characterize the feeling among governors, because what you've done isn't exactly working. We are 2 years away from 2024.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the big issue. Well, 2024 in Biden, I think, is an absurdity. He will not be running water in 2024, let alone a presidential campaign. And I do mean that because he physically cannot do it. He was only able to run in 2020 because he didn't have to run. You know, he was home for most of the campaign because of the pandemic restrictions. There were more Elvis sightings in the summer of 2020 than there were Joe Biden sightings. But if the world is reopened in 2024 and he physically had to do this every day, don't get me wrong, I want to watch it, but they're not going to let him get out there and do it. I mean, Joe Biden is a mess, and that's the big difference. When people compare him to Trump, okay, understand that at this point in the Trump presidency, everybody in the media was pretending he was a Russian supervillain. At this point in the Biden presidency, everyone's pretending he is sane and coherent, and no one's buying it. Joe Biden's the only guy you know who quits talking in the middle of a sentence because he's done. Not he's just done. He's just sending in the punt team on second down. And that's not supposed to happen. Certainly not for the presidency of the United States. And that's why they're in the spot that they're in. But getting past the cognitive decline, it's just priorities. Okay, their priorities are out of touch with the rest of the world. That's where we're at.